Jana Gana Mana Yadhinayaka Jaya He Bharoto Bhagyo Bidhata Punjab Sindhu Gujarat Maratha Dravida Utkala Banga Vindhya Himachal Jamuna Ganga.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we are looking at the invisible architecture of a nation.
Right, the political and social architecture specifically.
I want you to picture the scene with us. It is December 27, 1911. We are in Calcutta.
That is the absolute center of the British Raj at the time.
Precisely. The atmosphere is very tense politically. We are at the 28th annual session of the Indian National Congress.
And amidst all those speeches and resolutions, a group of school students stands up to sing.
Yeah, they are led by the niece of the composer. And at that moment, it is just a hymn titled Bharoto Bhagyo Bidhata.
But today you would know it as Jana Gana Mana, the national anthem of India.
Our mission today is to uncover how that poem became a tool for defining a nation that, legally speaking, was still a colony.
We are going to look at the intersection of poetry and politics. We will cover the dismantling of imperial narratives and the historical context that elevated this specific song.
Let's start with the author. We need to talk about Rabindranath Tagore.
He is a monumental figure in South Asian history. Calling him a poet is a bit of an understatement. He was a polymath.
Yeah, he was the first Asian to win the Nobel Prize in Literature in 1913.
Right. But we also have to look at his ideological background. He was a reformist from the Brahmo Samaj tradition.
Can you break that down for the listener? What did the Brahmo Samaj represent?
Sure. It was a reformist movement within Hinduism. They moved toward a formless, infinite divinity and moved away from rigid caste systems and idol worship.
So that heavily shaped his worldview.
It did. It made him a humanist and a universalist.
Which is interesting because national anthems are usually written by very staunch nationalists.
Mm-hmm.
But Tagore was actually highly critical of nationalism.
He was. He warned against what he termed the fetish of the nation. He believed that organizing people purely based on rigid territorial allegiances was destructive.
So when he sat down to write this hymn in late 1911, he wasn't writing a battle cry for a specific border.
No, he was writing a prayer to the dispenser of destiny.
We should contextualize 1911 as well, because it is a pivotal year.
It is the height of the British Raj, but also the dawn of organized national consciousness.
The political tides were shifting. The British had recently annulled the partition of Bengal, which had caused massive unrest.
Right, so you have this rising feeling of an Indian identity struggling against British occupation. The Congress session in Calcutta was a focal point for that sentiment.
Now let's analyze the song itself. The anthem we sing today is only a fraction of the original piece.
Yes, Jana Gana Mana is just the first stanza of a larger hymn that has 5 stanzas in total.
But even within that first stanza, the linguistic choices are very deliberate. The lyrics are written in a literary register of Bengali called Sadhu Bhasha.
That is a crucial detail. Sadhu Bhasha is highly Sanskritized.
And why does that matter? Why use a Sanskritized dialect instead of conversational Bengali?
Because India is a linguistic continent. There are hundreds of regional languages. But Sanskrit serves as a linguistic root for the Indo-Aryan languages in the north, like Hindi or Marathi.
And it also influenced the Dravidian languages in the south.
Yes, that is the point. By using words derived from Sanskrit, like jana for people or gana for group Tagore, created a linguistic bridge.
It meant the lyrics were intelligible to people across very diverse regional backgrounds.
Right. It bypassed the regional language barriers.
Let's touch upon the meaning of those lyrics. The core sentiment translates roughly to, "Thou art the ruler of the minds of all people, dispenser of India's destiny."
It is an invocation of a supreme guiding spirit.
But he grounds that spiritual invocation in physical geography. He uses what analysts call a sung map.
He performs a geographical roll call in the lyrics. He lists regions sequentially. Punjab, Sindh, Gujarat, Maratha, Dravida, Utkala, Banga.
Utkala being historical, Orissa, and Banga being Bengal.
Yeah. And he names the mountain ranges, the Vindhya and the Himalaya. He names the sacred rivers, the Yamuna and the Ganges.
Why is this geographical list so significant politically?
You have to look at the imperial narrative of the time. The British justified their occupation by arguing that India was not a nation.
They claimed it was just a collection of warring, fragmented kingdoms.
Right. They argued it required British order to function. By chanting these diverse regions and landscapes together in a single breath, Tagore verbally constructs a unified India.
He presents the country as a single, pluralistic entity.
Yes. The song acknowledges the diversity of the land, but asserts a shared destiny. This destroys the colonial justification for the occupation.
It is a counter-narrative built entirely on pluralism.
It proves that a unified cultural consciousness could exist without the British imposing it.
That is a very powerful use of poetry. But we need to address the controversy. There is a very persistent myth surrounding this song.
The King George V rumor.
Yeah. For a long time, there was a rumor that Tagore wrote the song specifically to praise the British king.
It is important to unpack why that rumor started. King George V was visiting India for the Delhi Durbar in December 1911.
Which is the exact same week the song was premiered at the Congress Session.
The timing caused the initial confusion, but the pro-British Anglo-Indian press is what really manufactured the myth.
Newspapers, like the Englishman and the Statesman.
Right. They misreported the event. On the same day Tagore's song was sung, another song was also performed. It was called Badshah Hamara, written by Rampraj Chowdhury.
And that second song was actually about the king.
Yes, Badshah Hamara was explicitly written to praise the emperor. The Anglo-Indian press conflated the two performances.
They assumed the Lord of Destiny Tagore was singing about had to be the British monarch.
Because in their imperial worldview, who else could dictate India's destiny?
How did Tagore respond to this?
He was deeply offended. He rejected the claim entirely. There is a notable letter he wrote in 1937 to Pulin Bihari Sen where he addresses this directly.
What did he say in the letter?
He stated that the dispenser of India's destiny, the Bhagyo Bidhata, could never be a George V or a George VI.
He referred to the subject of his song as the eternal charioteer guiding India through the ages.
Right. He essentially said that the rise and fall of empires are temporary, but the spirit of the people is eternal. To suggest he was praising a foreign monarch was an insult to his philosophy.
It is a classic example of how the colonial metropolis tried to co-opt local culture to validate its own rule.
They wanted the legitimacy of having the great Indian poets sing their praises.
So Tagore sets the record straight. But the song still has a long journey before it becomes the national anthem. We have to fast forward to 1942.
And we have to shift our geographic focus to Germany. This brings us to Subhas Chandra Bose.
A very dynamic figure in the independence movement. He took a more militant approach compared to the nonviolent resistance within India.
He formed the Indian National Army, or the INA, to fight the British. By 1942, he was in Hamburg seeking international support.
And he needed national symbols for his movement.
Yes. On September 11, 1942, at the founding of the German Indian Society in Hamburg, the Radio Symphony Orchestra played Jana Gana Mana.
That is a highly significant moment for diplomatic projection.
It was the first time India was presented to the Western world outside of the British sphere as a sovereign state with its own national symbol.
It was a declaration of sovereignty on an international stage.
Bose also realized he needed to make the song accessible to his soldiers who came from all over the subcontinent, so he commissioned a Hindustani translation.
This was the adaptation titled Shubh Sukh Chain.
Right. It was given a more martial rhythm suitable for an army. But ultimately, the original Tagore tune and lyrics prevailed historically.
Which brings us to the moment of decision. It is January 24, 1950. Independence has been achieved, and the Constituent Assembly has to officially choose the national anthem.
And Jana Gana Mana was not the only option on the table. There was a major contender.
Vande Mataram by Bankim Chandra Chatterjee.
Yes. Vande Mataram was arguably the most popular slogan of the entire freedom struggle. It was deeply embedded in the public consciousness as a tool of protest.
So why didn't the Constituent Assembly choose the popular favorite?
It came down to the ideological foundation of the new state. They were debating secularism versus religion.
How did Vande Mataram conflict with secularism?
The song personified the nation using imagery of the Hindu mother goddess, specifically Durga.
I see. So while that resonated with the Hindu majority, it would be problematic for others.
It alienated the Muslim and Christian populations. They could not reconcile the imagery of a Hindu goddess with their monotheistic faiths.
The leaders of the Constituent Assembly were trying to build a pluralistic secular republic. They needed a symbol that included everyone.
Right. Jana Gana Mana was chosen because it was secular. It praised the land and the people. The supreme spirit it invoked did not exclude any religious group.
It aligned perfectly with the constitutional vision of the country.
So Vande Mataram was designated as the national song to honor its historical weight, but Jana Gana Mana became the national anthem for the state.
It shows how carefully they were engineering the identity of the republic.
It was a deliberate choice for political unification.
We have traced this song from a Congress session in Calcutta to a symphony in Hamburg, and finally to the Constituent Assembly. It functioned as a bridge, a diplomatic assertion, and a commitment to secularism.
It is a remarkable trajectory for a single stanza of poetry.
But I want to leave you with one final provocative thought to explore. We mentioned earlier that Tagore deeply distrusted the concept of nation-states.
He viewed nationalism as mechanical and divisive.
Yet this man, who explicitly warned against the fetish of the nation, ended up composing the national anthems for two different countries, India and Bangladesh.
And his work directly inspired the national anthem of a third country, Sri Lanka.
It is the ultimate historical irony. The man who feared borders became the defining voice for three sovereign states.
It certainly challenges how we define patriotism in poetry.
We are Annabelle Delgado and Beadana Gill from the Buscaritos Project.
Please subscribe to follow future transmissions.
Jana Gana Mana Adhinayaka Jaya Ho Bharata Bhagyo Bidhata Punjab Sindhu Gujarat Maharashtra Dravid Utkal Banga Vindhya Himachal Yamuna Ganga Uttal Jal Vitaranga Tere Shubh Naam se jaage Tera Shubh Ashish mange Gaave Tab Jaya Gatha Jana Gana Mangala Dayak Jaya Ho Bharat Bhagyo Bidhata Jaya Ho Jaya Ho Jaya Ho Jaya 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 Ho Vish Din Tera Yauvan Pracharit Suni Teri Udar Vani Hindu Bauddha Sikh Jaina Parasik Musalman Krishnani Purab Paschima Yaate Tere Sinhasan Paat Prema Har Gomute Jana Gana Yajna Vidhayak Jaya Ho Bharat Bhagyo Bidhata Jaya Ho Jaya Ho Jaya Ho Jaya 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 Ho Padanaya Budaya Bandura Panta Yuga Bhavita Jatri Ekira Karati Kerarat Rava Mukharita Patha Dinaratri Dharana Vita Gamadhye Teri Shankar Dhani Hoti Sankata Dukha Harani Jana Gana Patha Parijayaka Jaya Ho Bharata Bhagyo Bidhata Jaya Ho Jaya Ho Jaya Ho Jaya 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 Ho Rapi Gayi Yavayudita Turiya Kavi Purvaya Jaya Giribhala Gaveti Hangama Purna Samirana Nama Jivana Rasadhale Tere Karunaruna Karate Niti Bharat Jada Sab Charanam Natama